I had been searching my whole life. Searching for a moment, a sign, something that would quiet the noise inside me and awaken the truth I always knew was there. All those years, I chased success, recognition, and the world's approval, yet the hunger in my heart never faded. It was as if something was missing, as if the final piece to my puzzle had been withheld from me. And then it happened. Not with fireworks, not with a sudden fortune, but with something far more powerful, something that pierced through my doubts and shattered every wall I had built around myself. In that instant, I realized everything I had been waiting for was already within me. The peace, the clarity, the sense of purpose I had been desperate to find. It was never hiding out there. It was waiting for me to stop running, to stop searching outside, to recognize the treasure I had been carrying all along. That moment changed everything. It wasn't just inspiration, it was revelation. I finally understood that fulfillment isn't in the applause of others, nor in the weight of gold, nor in the titles and trophies we chase. It is in the awakening of the heart. It is in the recognition of love, of presence, of meaning. And now, I can say this with conviction. I have found what I had been waiting for my entire life. Not in a place, not in a possession, but in a truth that can never be taken away. From the moment we open our eyes to the world, we are taught to search. Search for answers, search for success, search for meaning. We are told that happiness waits somewhere beyond us, just out of reach, if only we work harder, climb higher, push further. And so, life becomes a constant pursuit, a restless journey where every milestone feels like just another stepping stone to something greater. The degree, the promotion, the applause of the crowd, the recognition from those we admire. It feels intoxicating for a moment, yet it fades as quickly as it comes. What lingers is the emptiness, the gnawing question in the back of the mind: is this all there is? Many live in this cycle for years, even decades. They chase the bigger house, the faster car, the corner office, the perfect image. Each time they grasp one of these prizes, there is a rush of adrenaline, a surge of validation, but it never lasts. Soon the shine wears off and the hunger returns. The heart whispers that there must be more, but the noise of the world drowns it out. So, we run again, telling ourselves that the next achievement will be the one that finally fills the void. The endless search is exhausting. It wears down the spirit. And yet, it is seductive because it always dangles hope. Hope that the next thing, the next success, the next victory will finally bring peace. This is the trap so many of us fall into. We believe fulfillment lives outside of us, hidden in some destination we have not yet reached. But in reality, every time we achieve what the world says will make us whole, we realize it was only a mirage. The horizon keeps moving. The finish line keeps shifting. There comes a point when you start to notice the pattern. You begin to see how temporary every victory is, how shallow every prize feels once it is in your hands. You smile for the photographs, you celebrate with others, but deep down you know the celebration is hollow. The applause fades, the lights go dim, and you are left with yourself in the silence. That silence is often louder than the crowd. It confronts you with questions you have tried to avoid. What am I really chasing? Why do I still feel empty? What is it that I am truly searching for? The truth is that this endless search has very little to do with possessions or achievements. It is not about wealth, or recognition, or power. What we are really searching for is a sense of meaning, a sense of belonging, a sense of being whole. But because the world has trained us to look outward, we keep running in circles, grasping at things that cannot satisfy the soul. This search is universal, and until we recognize it for what it is, we remain trapped. Forever reaching, forever chasing, forever waiting for something outside to complete what is already within. It rarely comes in the way we expect. We imagine breakthroughs as lightning bolts, loud, dramatic, impossible to miss. We wait for a grand sign, a clear voice, or some monumental event that shakes the very ground beneath our feet. But the truth is far different. Transformation often enters quietly, slipping into a moment so ordinary that it would be easy to overlook. It comes when the noise of the world pauses, just long enough for the heart to hear something new. It is not always the roar of thunder. It can be the whisper in the silence that changes everything. The power of that moment lies not in its size but in its impact. It may be a single look, a fleeting word, or an experience so small it seems insignificant to anyone else. But to you, it lands with the weight of eternity. Something shifts. You suddenly see the world not as it has always appeared, but as it truly is. The search, the endless striving, the chasing after wind, it all stops, if only for an instant. In that instant, the truth reveals itself with such clarity that it cannot be denied. What makes these moments so powerful is that they are unplanned. They cannot be manufactured, they cannot be scheduled, and they cannot be bought. They come when you least expect them, and often when you are not looking at all. And yet, when they arrive, everything changes. Your perspective, your priorities, your definition of success, all of it begins to realign around this new awareness. What once seemed urgent suddenly feels meaningless. What once felt impossible suddenly becomes simple. It is as though the lens through which you have been viewing your life has finally been wiped clean, and for the first time you can see clearly. This kind of transformation cannot be undone. You may resist it, you may try to return to old patterns, but the seed of revelation has been planted, and once it is planted, it grows. The recognition of truth cannot be unrecognized. It is not about a fleeting feeling of inspiration. It is about the undeniable sense that something deep inside you has been awakened. Even if you tried, you could never go back to being the same. There is a beauty in the simplicity of these moments. They do not announce themselves with fanfare or demand recognition. They simply arrive, like a key sliding into a lock, unlocking a part of you that has been waiting to be freed. What others might overlook as insignificant, you know is sacred. That is the paradox of clarity. It does not need to be loud to be life-changing. It can be as quiet as the breath you didn't know you were holding, as subtle as the pause between heartbeats, yet its effect reverberates for the rest of your life. For so long, the belief takes root that the answer lies somewhere out there, hidden in the world's treasures, buried in accolades, tucked away in someone else's approval. It is easy to be deceived into thinking the journey is always outward, toward more, toward bigger, toward better. Yet, the deeper truth is that the very thing we long for has been quietly residing within us all along. It is not lost, not unreachable, not reserved for the chosen few. It is a treasure carried in silence, waiting for the moment we finally slow down enough to notice it. The discovery of this inner treasure is often surprising. We spend years searching, building, achieving, all in the name of fulfillment. And then, in a moment of honesty, we realize that the joy we seek is not in the external rewards, but in the simple awareness of who we truly are. It is in the recognition of our ability to love, to give, to create, to endure. These are riches that no market can sell, no crowd can grant, and no title can bestow. They are ours by birth, carried within from the very beginning. The tragedy is that most of us overlook it. We are distracted by the glitter of the outside world, convinced that once we obtain its prizes, then, and only then will we feel complete. But the prizes keep moving, and the finish line keeps shifting. The hunger remains because the external cannot fill what is internal by nature. The heart will not be silenced by substitutes. It longs for authenticity, for the recognition of its own worth, for the acceptance of what already lies within. When the realization comes that the treasure is inside, it dismantles the illusions. Suddenly, we see that the restless striving was never necessary. The power to feel whole was always present. The light we chased in the distance was shining in us all along. And what a revelation that is! To know that the gold we sought outside was hidden in the depths of our own soul. This recognition does not make the world's pursuits meaningless, but it changes how we approach them. Achievements, possessions, and recognition can still be enjoyed, but they are no longer the source of identity. They no longer dictate our worth. Instead, they become expressions of the inner wealth we already possess, reflections of the light that comes from within. That shift changes everything. The race slows down. The noise grows quiet. What once felt like a desperate chase now becomes a purposeful walk, guided by clarity instead of fear. The treasure within cannot be stolen, cannot be destroyed, and cannot be diminished by the opinions of others. It is constant, unshakable, eternal. To find it is to find freedom. To embrace it is to finally rest from the endless search. And in that rest, life takes on a new beauty. Not because the world has changed, but because you finally see the wealth that was always in your possession. There comes a moment when the noise of ambition and the weight of striving finally give way to something deeper, something more profound than anything the outside world can provide. That moment is the awakening of the heart. It is not an intellectual breakthrough or a clever discovery of the mind. It is something felt, something known without the need for explanation. It is the sudden awareness that life is not measured by what we accumulate, but by the depth of our presence, the purity of our love, and the clarity of our truth. The awakening of the heart often begins in stillness. It may come when the world falls silent, when distractions fade, and when the soul is stripped bare of illusions. In that stillness, what rises is not fear or emptiness, but a fullness that cannot be described. It is the recognition that love is not something to chase or demand, but something that flows naturally when the heart is open. It is the awareness that meaning is not found in applause or recognition, but in the quiet power of being fully alive in the present moment. When the heart awakens, the world itself appears different. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. A simple conversation, a gentle smile, the warmth of sunlight on your skin. These become treasures, not because they changed, but because your perception did. The lens of the heart brings clarity, coloring the world with significance that the restless mind could never grasp. It reveals the beauty that was always there, hidden beneath layers of distraction and noise. This awakening also carries with it a kind of strength. It is not the strength of domination or conquest, but the strength of authenticity. A person whose heart has awakened no longer needs to prove anything to anyone. They are not controlled by the shifting opinions of others or enslaved by the endless hunger for more. They move through life with a quiet confidence, rooted in truth, grounded in presence. Their power comes not from control but from surrender, surrender to love, to meaning, to the reality of what matters most. In this awakened state, relationships deepen. Love is no longer conditional or transactional. It is not a tool for validation or a means to fill emptiness. Instead, it flows freely, without fear of loss, because it comes from a place that cannot be diminished. Connection becomes more real, more profound, because it is not driven by need, but by the overflowing abundance of an open heart. The awakening of the heart transforms not only how you see the world, but how you move within it. Suddenly, success is no longer about climbing the highest ladder, but about living with integrity, with compassion, with presence. The victories that once felt hollow begin to fade, replaced by victories of the spirit, acts of kindness, moments of courage. A life lived in alignment with truth. In this way, the awakening of the heart is not just a feeling, it is a rebirth, a return to the essence of what it means to be truly alive. There is a dangerous illusion that follows many of us throughout life. The belief that if we could just gain the right recognition, if we could just win the approval of others, then we would finally feel whole. From childhood, the pattern is planted: the gold star, the grade on the test, the applause after a performance. It conditions us to look outward, to measure our worth by how others respond. And so, we grow into adults who chase the same pattern, only with different prizes, titles, promotions, likes, followers, applause from a faceless crowd. Each achievement gives a fleeting rush, a temporary high, but it never lasts. As soon as the applause fades, the silence returns, and with it comes the familiar emptiness. The futility of this chase becomes clearer with time. No matter how much recognition you gather, it is never enough. The crowd that cheers today may forget tomorrow. The same people who once applauded may one day criticize. And if your sense of identity depends on their approval, you will find yourself constantly bending, constantly reshaping, constantly sacrificing your truth to win something that was never permanent in the first place. Living this way is like building a house on sand. No matter how beautiful it looks, it cannot stand when the tide inevitably comes in. What makes the chase so exhausting is not just the effort, but the endless moving of the goalposts. You reach one milestone, and suddenly there is another. You impress one group of people, and then you discover another group whose approval you crave even more. It is a cycle without end, and in that cycle, you slowly lose yourself. You stop asking, "What do I truly want?" and instead ask, "What will they applaud?" That question becomes a trap, because it chains your life to the unpredictable, ever-changing opinions of others. But the truth is simple: the deepest fulfillment cannot be found in applause. The titles, the trophies, the claps, they all fade. What remains is who you are when the lights go out, when the audience goes home, when the noise dies down. That is the true measure of fulfillment. And until you face that silence with honesty, you will always feel the pull to chase the next performance, the next recognition, the next wave of approval. The futility of chasing approval is not meant to strip life of joy, but to reveal where joy truly resides. Recognition may feel good, but it was never meant to be the foundation of your worth. When you begin to release the need for constant validation, you reclaim your freedom. You are no longer a prisoner to the applause of others. You can live from a place of authenticity, where your actions flow not from fear of being overlooked, but from the certainty of your own truth. That is where peace begins. Not in the crowd's reaction, but in the quiet confidence that you no longer need it to define you. There is a moment in every journey where the restless search gives way to stillness, where the endless hunger finally quiets, and the truth stands clear. The greatest discovery is not something purchased, earned, or bestowed. It is the recognition that what you have been waiting for all along is already within your grasp. This realization does not arrive with fanfare, but when it lands, it reshapes everything. You stop running, you stop chasing, you stop bargaining with the future. Instead, you awaken to the unshakable truth that fulfillment is not a destination to reach someday. It is a state of being available now. The beauty of this discovery lies in its simplicity. Life conditions us to believe that the answer will come when the stars align, when the right door opens, when we finally collect enough victories to feel worthy. Yet, none of those things can ever fill the space that only self-realization can touch. The moment you understand that you already carry the light you seek, the emptiness dissolves. You no longer depend on circumstances to grant you peace. The storm may rage outside, but within, there is a stillness that cannot be shaken. This discovery is not about settling or lowering expectations. It is not the acceptance of defeat. It is the opposite. It is empowerment. For the first time, you are no longer at the mercy of external rewards. You are no longer a servant to the applause or the shifting tides of success. You stand rooted in something deeper, something eternal. You realize that the gift you were waiting for was never a thing to be acquired. It was an awakening of awareness, a recognition of truth, a return to what was always yours. With this realization comes a profound freedom. You are free to enjoy the successes without being enslaved by them. You are free to pursue goals without tying your worth to their outcome. You are free to love without fear of losing yourself in the process. The burden of striving for completion outside of yourself lifts, and in its place arises the peace of knowing you were never lacking to begin with. The greatest gift is this: the realization cannot be taken away. Wealth may come and go, recognition may rise and fade, relationships may change, but the awareness of inner wholeness remains. It is untouchable, unbreakable, unmovable. That is why it feels like the ultimate discovery. Because once you know it, you cannot unknow it. Once you experience it, you cannot go back to the illusion that fulfillment lives elsewhere. To stand in that truth is to live with a new kind of power. Not the power to control the world, but the power to remain unshaken by it. The power to walk with confidence, to give without fear, to rest without guilt, to create without desperation. It is the power of someone who has found what they were searching for all their life. Not outside, not someday, but within, here and now. And so, after all the searching, after all the striving, I discovered the truth that had been waiting for me all along. What I thought was missing was never out there. It was always within. The endless chase, the pursuit of approval, the hunger for more, none of it could compare to the stillness that came when I finally awakened to what truly matters. Presence, love, meaning, the treasure of the heart. This is the gift I had been waiting for my entire life. Not a thing, not a prize, not the applause of the world, but the revelation that fulfillment is born from within, and once it is found, it can never be taken away. And now, as I close this chapter of my story, I want to thank you for walking this journey with me. Thank you for lending me your time, your attention, and your heart. My hope is that in these words, you too have felt a reminder, a whisper, that what you have been searching for may already be closer than you think. Until we meet again, stay true to yourself, hold fast to love, and never forget the power that lies within you. Goodbye for now, and thank you.